Hello, welcome to the 17th Annual Skoll World Forum on Social Entrepreneurship. I'm Jeff Skoll, the founder and chair of the Skoll Foundation. In normal times, I'd be greeting you from the stage of New College, Oxford, and probably right before that, I'd be tweaking my remarks and talking to other speakers and the staff and many people who actually make the Skoll World Forum tick. I'd be thanking Peter Tufano and the Said Business School for hosting us, and be talking about people in the audience who had done wonderful things and were right there in front of us. Alas, this year, it's not normal times. And like many of you, I'm creating this video while in shelter-in-place orders from my house in LA. I feel very honored to be working directly on the COVID situation, in part due to the leadership of the Ending Pandemics team, which at one point was part of the Skoll Global Threats Fund. And I'm super grateful to my colleagues and our colleagues who are working across the globe on this global situation. So, though I miss the in-person gatherings, I'm delighted to be with you in a virtual way today, and I hope you feel the same. Unlike past years where we might be running across Oxford's slippery cobblestones to get to the next must-see event, or share meals at long tables, or hoist a pint or two at the end of a long day, the most important thing is that we are together. And that is what we hope remains true through the course of this week, even if we're not physically in the same place. The Skoll World Forum was launched in 2004 with the goal of bringing social entrepreneurs together. Back then, folks didn't often know each other and felt quite isolated. So all these years later, social entrepreneurs, it's a known thing that when you say you're a social entrepreneur, people don't look at you blankly, and we've gotten over our sense of isolation. Well, okay, we're in a different sense of isolation now, but here we go. Today, we are gathered not to break bread together, but with a shared concern over the situation of COVID and of the world as a whole. As always, we know that this community of social entrepreneurs will innovate, will come up with ingenious solutions, and will make a difference to the world as a whole and for all of us. And we're grateful for your efforts. Even at this moment, we find things to celebrate, such as the announcement of the new winners of the Skoll Awards for Social Entrepreneurship. In years past, Kofi Annan, who was a beloved member of the Skoll community and had been with us on the Oxford stage many times, back when he was UN Secretary General, he had a wonderful line that said, more than ever before in human history, we share a common destiny. We can master it only if we face it together. The theme of this year's forum is collective strength, and Kofi's inspiring words anchor this theme. Our new awardees, who you will soon meet, embrace this spirit. And this community, built by you, endures through the most challenging times because of this belief. Our cohesion, our togetherness is needed now more than ever. We can tackle the world's most pressing problems when we act in concert with one another. As always, we strive ever onwards for a vision of a sustainable world of peace and prosperity for all. Now, without further ado, I'm thrilled to turn the introductions of our new awardees over to Pat Mitchell. Pat has been a longtime part of the Skoll community, a board member of the Skoll Foundation, former CEO of PBS, and currently a best-selling author with her new book, A Dangerous Woman. While Pat, in past years, has reported from the uh, fancy studios of CNN and NBC, today she leads us from her living room in Atlanta. Take it away, Pat.
Thank you, Jeff. Your vision for the world truly inspires us. And it is that vision and your extraordinary support and leadership that has created the community of changemakers that have joined us for the first virtual Skoll Foundation Awards program. As Jeff mentioned, this is a special time for the Skoll community when we gather to recognize 5 extraordinary organizations working at the root of some of our greatest global challenges. It's a privilege to welcome them into the family of our previous Skoll Awards for Social Entrepreneurship winners. We gather here virtually when the world around us feels profoundly unsteady. Together this way is certainly one of the benefits of a more connected world, and thank you for joining us from every part of that world. And in spite of this moment's need for physical distancing, we're trying social proximity. So let's give it a try. Change is inevitable, including the changes that we're facing with COVID-19. It inspired activist George the poet to write about change, and he joins us now to share his perspective from the deserted streets of London.
Coronavirus is a global crisis. We're gonna have to stay home to fight this. Indoors with our phones beside us. Literally left to our own devices. Don't you find it strange? A second ago our biggest stress was climate change. Now we face a more immediate threat. It's more lives in danger. It's time we change up. This is not about political mudslinging. It's not about silver spoon versus difficult upbringing. It's bigger than sectors lobbying government. This is about protecting everybody recovering. It's about detecting. It's about discovering, preventing unnecessary suffering. It's about preserving our healthcare systems, which are already struggling. Humankind has made so much progress. And since we all bask in the glory, gotta remember it's a process. I'm part of a story that started before me. I know that human experience is priceless when we're facing such a serious crisis. Collectively, we challenge these forces, manage resources. So I can't pretend to feel no form of unity with everyone else in this global community. We're internationally connected, and this brings us closer, as can be expected. That's why I'm still in touch with my old school teachers. Human beings are social creatures. We have debates, exaggerate and aggravate, exacerbate, but make no mistake, we're best when we collaborate. We'll last longer, no less forever, if we use this time to progress together. The future holds unexposed danger, but no stress. Humankind is no stranger to progress. And as we've proven, when we collaborate, progress follows fast. We dictate what the future holds, because today's present is tomorrow's past.
Thank you, George, for such a compelling and much needed message about how we do face change and challenges. We do it with individual responsibilities and collective strength.
Everything you're going to hear from us has been vetted by public health experts and scientists.
A pandemic means that the virus is everywhere, but it won't be every place at the same time.
We all want a cure, but the health of our society is in your hands.
It needs us to survive. Let's not give it any help.
Here is what you can do now.
Wash your hands like your life depends on it.
Social distancing. It means 6 feet away from another person.
It is a choice, but it is a choice we all have to make together.
And scientists and doctors are the people we need to be listening to right now.
If there are elderly or vulnerable people near you, let them know you are there to help.
Other generations have been asked to do extraordinary things.
We can beat this thing together just by staying apart.
Please just stay home.
Till we have a vaccine or a cure, we need to be that for each other.
Starting now.
The community of social entrepreneurs that the Skoll Foundation has supported and gathered for nearly 2 decades has now grown to 116 organizations led by 143 remarkable visionaries. This community represents, in our opinion, the greatest hope that we will individually and collectively survive and even thrive together because of the efforts of the individuals and organizations that you'll learn more about today. But before meeting them, let's learn more about the Skoll Awards for Social Entrepreneurship from the CEO of the Skoll Foundation, Don Gibbs, and our founder, Jeff Skoll, as well as members of this extraordinary community.
As we move into this new decade, the issues that we're dealing with, whether it's climate, whether it's inequality, whether it's threats to democracy, they're building on each other. We need the greatest minds trying to figure out, how do we take apart these problems? How can you pick a system at the right altitude and change that system? And that's the journey that we're on as we try and identify who the next great leaders are.
The Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship is the world's most renowned platform for recognizing social entrepreneurs who are changing the world. It was started 15 years ago as a way to recognize the incredible work and bringing to light the fact that these are the folks who are at the forefront of solving the world's most pressing problems.
Well before anyone thought of such a term, Jeff Skoll planted the flag around this concept of social entrepreneurship.
John Gardner, the architect of the Great Society programs under Lyndon Johnson, said, bet on good people doing good things. And what he meant was that there were big problems ahead for the world, but there were also people who would stop at nothing to solve these problems.
People who see a societal problem and are able to be innovative and imaginative enough to see a different future. How do you change the power structures? Sometimes it's legislation, sometimes it's values and norms. It's going to take working with government. It's going to take working with other civil society organizations, the private sector.
Very quickly, we started receiving requests throughout almost every corner of the world from both lawyers and civil society and governments, bar associations, and they said, hey, we have the exact same problem. How can we work together?
Historically, awards are considered to be a pinnacle where you've achieved something and then you get a Nobel Peace Prize. Whereas with the Skoll Award, it's the starting point of growing your impact and scaling your organization to a significant level. So it comes with an unrestricted grant. Right now it's a $1.5 million grant over 3 years.
That's such a small part compared to giving us confidence, giving us faith, bringing contacts, bringing resources.
There's a partnership, and it's not about we're going to write a check and we want to report in a year. It's that we want to think through this together with you. That, we don't just bring money to bear here, but we have immense intelligence.
It changed the life of my organization, the life of me personally. It changed the life of thousands and thousands of people in Afghanistan.
It's a lifetime of having a community to journey with.
Every year, we go through a process of screening thousands of applications and finally selecting a few select number of awardees who are a testimonial to the fact that this is a new leadership force that's solving the world's problems.
The Skoll Foundation supports social entrepreneurs who offer innovative, long-term solutions to the world's most pressing problems, like bringing new teaching methodologies to thousands of schools in India.
Really looking at which are the worst areas, rural, tribal, remote areas, where the indicators for the girl child are the worst. And through a community ownership model, finding every single girl in those villages who's out of school.
Sharing tools and resources with smallholder farmers so they can improve yields and access to markets.
Farmers are the majority of the world's poor. So when we build farmer productivity, we build income for a lot of really poor people, and I think that this is potentially one of the most cost-effective ways to end poverty in the world today.
And strengthening healthcare systems for some of the world's most vulnerable people.
The key answer to working with government is that you align your plan with their plan. I think a lot of the partners in this collaboration have done the same. They've put aside their brands, often have adapted their models, while keeping fundamental what matters most, the end aim of saving lives in remote rural communities.
This can be just as powerful in tackling some of these problems as governments can be, as corporations can be, as pure philanthropy can be, and these are the folks who are best positioned to create that change.
Imagine a world where we didn't have to be quite so afraid for ourselves or for our children. We can choose to live in that world. And this is the moment, this is the exact moment when we can decide to build it together.
Our first awardee this evening tackles one of the most urgent threats everywhere, and yet it's one that lives in the shadows: corruption. The last 3 decades have seen a dramatic globalization of organized crime and corruption, now totaling trillions of dollars, and among other devastating outcomes, going to a rise in global inequality as the money flows to an elite network of individuals, companies, governments. If corruption is a disease, then transparency is an essential part of its treatment. The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, by exposing crime and corruption, is providing the transparency and truth necessary for the public to begin to hold power to account. In the face of growing global threats to independent media, this organization provides digital and physical security and allows journalists to work in teams and with trusted editors, to partner with advocacy groups, to press for justice and change, and to unearth the evidence that enables law enforcement to act. OCCRP is responsible, for example, for exposing global corruption through the Panama Papers, and another 300 plus official investigations, 442 indictments, arrests or sentences, 52 high-level resignations. This organization currently publishes more than 100 investigations a year, a number they expect to grow more this year, making it one of the largest producers of investigative reporting in the world. Meet the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project.
My problem is not the fake news, actually. My problem is that there's not enough real, truthful news out there. When you look at criminals that operate across borders, you see this global kleptocracy that amasses huge amounts of wealth that's not distributed to anyone else.
Corruption and crime account for probably 20% of the global economy. It's really one of the most destructive things on earth.
We're trying to tell this story to the world.
People have power.
They can change these systems. Organized crime, and especially cross-border organized crime. There are criminal groups that operate at ease across frontiers, across continents, crimes ranging from drug trafficking to trafficking in women and children and forced labor, and they launder money.
You destroy the lives of millions and millions of people by not allowing businesses and economies and environments to develop.
OCCRP is a coalition of 45 investigative centers stretched around the globe.
that are really dedicated to tell the people what's happening so that they have the information to make change.
You want to look at assets that they've got hidden.
We follow organized crime across the borders, we follow the companies, we follow the banks, we follow the money.
Villains, dictators, authoritarian regimes, bad companies come and go, but the core figures in the system, the banks that facilitate the movement of funds, the accounting firms, the trust firms, this is the core of how corruption works.
We want a global community of investigative reporters sharing data, sharing techniques, working cross borders that is firmly tied to the public and the public good.
They are stealing and stealing and stealing, but at the end, people will say no.
We reveal the truth. We put out real news that is useful to the citizens to make informed decisions and demand justice.
Join me in welcoming Drew Sullivan and Paul Radu from Sarajevo. Drew, Paul, congratulations and thank you for your important work and welcome to the community.
In 2003, I was asked to go to Eastern Europe and train reporters on trafficking in human beings. I was not too impressed with the class, but there was one young guy at the front, and every time I'd ask a question, his hand would go up, and he'd answer it, and he was usually right. And at one point, I got a little frustrated with them, and I said, have any of you actually ever talked to a trafficked person before? And his hand went up, and he said, I went undercover, and I bought 2 of them. And at the break, I went to the people who were hosting and I said, look, this guy knows more than I do. Can we hire him to teach with me on my next class? And that's how I got to know Paul.
Drew was running an investigative reporting center in Bosnia and I was running one in Romania. Our stories were all about organized crime and corruption. We compared notes and we quickly realized that the same people were doing the exact same scams in both our countries. So we decided to collaborate across borders. Our first story disrupted a fraudulent business scheme and won a global prize. And that's how OCCRP was born. With each story, it became clearer that collaborative strategies and technologies are key to taking on the criminal underworld. It takes a network to fight a network.
Growing inequality, poverty, the rise of autocrats, disappearing democracies, the rise of extremist groups. We see these trends every day, but they all have something in common. They're all fueled by the globalization of organized crime and corruption. With the help of what we call the criminal services industry, which are the banks, the law firms, registration agents, accounting firms who service crime and corruption has become this modern industry, and we're in the midst of its largest growth since maybe the world has ever seen.
This global network of corruption has no natural enemies. Law enforcement stops at borders. But we learned how transnational organized crime works. Criminal entrepreneurs will use the same lucrative schemes over and over again, territory after territory, legal loophole after legal loophole, and server after server. This is why we are changing investigative reporting. We are putting more science in it, and we are training new generations to become skilled, dedicated experts who know how to fight the scourge of organized crime.
So what started off as a small project has morphed into one of the largest investigative platforms on earth. We publish hundreds of stories in various languages. And by exposing corruption and explaining exactly how it works, we really empower people to act and to take back power from those who profit from their expense. We're proud of everything we've accomplished, but there's a whole lot more work to do. And that's why we're so happy today.
So thank you so much, Skoll, for this award and for recognizing the importance of investigative reporting to build a better world.
Thank you, Drew and Paul. We're so grateful for your reporting and recognize the personal risk you and other journalists are taking, so stay safe. While COVID-19 has dominated our efforts to stay safe, it's important to remember that long before a global pandemic of this crisis, unjust global health inequalities continued to be underreported. One such issue is maternal health in the developing world. In 2017, approximately 810 women died every day from preventable causes related to pregnancy. And in India, a woman dies in childbirth every 15 minutes. This shocking loss of life is in many cases due to families delaying decisions to seek care, delays in reaching care, delays in receiving care. Our next honoree is addressing this health crisis by transforming the way that mothers can receive advice and information. Arman leverages the connectivity of mobile technology to expand information access and preventative care access to services. Using a free mobile voice service, Arman sends timed and targeted preventative information in weekly transports to the mothers, all during their pregnancy and infancy. In partnership with the government, Arman has also created a mobile academy to train frontline health workers on life-saving preventative health behaviors. Through these and other services, Arman is working towards an India where pregnant women and mothers are equipped with the best health information available. The results are transformational, as we see in this video.
India has one of the highest maternal and child mortality and morbidity rates of the world. In the next 1 hour, 4 women will die in childbirth somewhere in India. And since India accounts for almost 1/6 of the world's population, unless India's maternal and child health indices improve, the world is going to suffer in the future. Why does a mother or child die in India or any country in the world? There's a 3 delay model that can explain that. These loss of lives are completely preventable. And one day, it struck me. Mobile phone is ubiquitous in the country. Why couldn't I use the mobile phone to reach across to women with information when she needs it directly to her? And so I started Arman. Our first innovation was M-Mitra, that's Mobile Friend. It's a free voice call service to reach across to women with critical information. For example, the fact that the women need to take iron tablets daily, what nutrition to have, immunization, how to take care of the child after the child is born. M-Mitra scaled across 9 states of the country quickly. And the government noticed the success. And they approached us in 2019 for implementation of their Kilkari program. Kilkari is a government scaled up voice call service similar to M-Mitra, and they were looking for a partner to extend healthcare throughout India. I believe health is a human right. My vision is no woman or child die for want of care.
Welcome, please, Dr. Upurna Hegde from India. Dr. Upurna, thank you for your tireless and entrepreneurial efforts to save the lives of women and children. Please tell us more.
Thank you, school. It's a poignant moment for me. Receiving this award in one of the first communities where we started our work, the Nalla Sopara slums of Mumbai city, surrounded by some of the women and children we work with. The story of Arman really starts in my medical residency. One day, a woman named Rupa from one of these slums arrived in labor, convulsing with hypertension. When I opened her records, I was stunned because I was looking at my own handwriting. I had seen Rupa in the 3rd month of pregnancy, but she never returned. We constantly counsel women to access care in the hospitals. Rupa did. But did I fail her? I was tormented with guilt. Did the overcrowding in the clinic mean that I had not counseled her enough to watch for signs of trouble, to seek regular care? I saw these stories play out daily. Women and children dying in the most unjust of circumstances due to conditions that should have never proved fatal. If only they had access to a little information at the right time. If only the health workers were trained to provide the right care when needed, before it was too late. Given the sheer numbers, any solution I designed had to be scalable, accessible to the last woman and child, and yet cost effective. Mobile technology enables that. And our massive scale has only been possible because so many of our partners, be it NGOs, hospitals, and the government, recognize the value of this approach and provided the scaffold on which we grew. We will go pan-India in the next 5 years and use the massive amounts of data generated to create tailored and targeted programs. But it's not just about saving lives. Arman's journey has made it delightfully clear to me that these women have an ingrained sense of justice, a joy they weave. We see it over and over. Give women a little information and they start taking control of their circumstances in ways they never did before. Be it convincing their conservative families to adopt family planning or ensuring their girl child gets the nutrition she needs against all odds. Rupa did not survive, but I'd like to think that she did not die in vain. Arman is in part her legacy. Rupa and women like her instilled the spark in me that now we try to instill in the millions of women and children we serve. And on behalf of all of them, I thank SCOLE from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Upurna, for your work to vastly improve maternal health care in India. In the US, along with the other challenges that we're all feeling everywhere in the world, we're in the middle of a voting process for the presidency called primaries at the state level. But ensuring that every individual citizen in the US gets to cast the vote during this democratic process is a right guaranteed in the US Constitution. This is not always possible due to lack of information among voters and election officials. And this is where the Center for Tech and Civic Life comes in. Our third awardee works behind the scenes in many states and communities to ensure that all voters can cast informed votes and that elections are fair and inclusive, and that this most vital part of a healthy democracy is protected and assured.
It is inherently an American value to have a system where everyone is able to participate. But there's a huge gap between our democratic ideals and the system in practice.
Well, it wouldn't be a presidential primary season without arcane rules and confusing ballots.
40% of US adults aren't voters. We see this huge opportunity to fix the system and building a democracy that's truly inclusive. The US voting experience is overly complicated. We have myriad different rules depending on where you live that are really difficult to understand, and it can be really challenging to find the information that you need about the folks on your ballot, where to go to vote, easily online in the places where people are looking for it. So our work is really focused on getting all of that information to folks ahead of time and making sure the process is something that is easy and that is seamless. We aggregate big data sets that answer questions like what's on my ballot and who are my elected officials, and we standardize that for the whole country.
Okay, hold your right hand up, please.
We also are working directly with local election departments across the country so that every election department has the skills to run secure, trustworthy, inclusive elections.
Our program is about professional development for election officials, connecting them with each other for networking opportunities to share stories and best practices, providing them with free resources to promote civic engagement and make voting easier in their communities, and training courses.
It's our hope that by doing the work we do, people feel confident in not just their elections, but democracy as a whole.
And now we're joined by founders Tiana, Donnie, and Whitney from Chicago. Welcome to the community, and thank you for the work you are leading to make every vote count.
Thank you so much to the Skoll Foundation for this honor and for recognizing the urgency of this critical work.
We also want to thank CTCL board members, our advisors, and amazing staff who guide and support the organization every day.
When I was a bright-eyed 19-year-old, I took an internship at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights in Washington, D.C. And I was so excited to help voters. And I was struck by, through this experience, how difficult it was to connect people with just very basic information about how to vote. And it occurred to me, if I couldn't find information about what was on the ballot, everyday voters didn't stand a chance.
I was one of those voters and I didn't. But fast forward a decade and we started the Center for Tech and Civic Life to help fill that gap. Now, it all starts with elections offices, where this information lives in thousands of different places and is made available in thousands of different formats. Think back for a second when the last time you used a fax machine was, but that's how we receive a lot of this information even today. We've even got a Slack channel called Faxes, but we've worked with elections offices across the country to collect all of their vital information in whatever format it's available. We standardize it, we put it online, and we amplify it so that voters across the country can actually see what they'll be voting on.
Which is super helpful, Donnie. But those election offices don't run themselves, right? They're led by election officials. These are public servants working on the front lines of democracy, mailing ballots, coordinating an army of volunteers, but they often lack even basic support. With budgets tightening every year, even some of the most resourceful offices don't have the training that they need. So we've developed training programs for election departments to give them a fighting chance to handle a host of challenges, from designing election websites to emerging issues like cybersecurity.
I am so proud of the work that we've done to forward the field around cybersecurity. We developed out a cybersecurity curriculum with experts from across the country, like the Center for Democracy and Technology. And right at this very moment, we are in the midst of training every election official in the state of Virginia on cybersecurity best practices. One official, Penny, reached out to us after the Cybersecurity 101 course that she took with us to let us know that she's already learned so much information that she's able to finally make sense of all of the jargon-filled information that she's getting from state and federal agencies.
The bottom line is that we expect elections officials to not just be experts in elections, but a whole host of fields: data collection, website design, customer service, cybersecurity now. So we're giving them the tools and training that they need to get ahead.
There is a ton of work left for all of us to do, but we've taken a big bite out of it already, and we won't give up until American democracy works the way that it should.
Thank you again to the Skoll Foundation for working right alongside us.
Tiana, Donnie, and Whitney, thank you for helping to ensure that there are free and fair elections in the United States. We're so pleased to have you in the Skoll community. The climate crisis is the existential threat of our time. And while there are many ways in which collective action is required to reverse the damage done to our planet and working across sectors to ensure and shape solutions, all agree that one environmental challenge that must be addressed is air pollution and global emissions. If we are to hold global warming to well below the 2 degrees target agreed to in the Paris Climate Accord, Radical and immediate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions must be achieved through changes in transportation. All modes of transport. They account for roughly 1/4 of global CO2 emissions. The International Council for Clean Transportation, ICCT, is responding to this urgent threat by providing first-rate, unbiased research and analysis to governments and to relevant stakeholders on how to improve the energy efficiency of road, marine, and air transportation. Working across the globe, ICCT has contributed to transport regulations adopted by governments. They've exposed Volkswagen's use of illegal options to evade emissions regulations, and they've helped to accelerate the industry's transition to electric vehicles. Let's learn more about how the International Council for Clean Transportation goes about its work.
A new United Nations report warns the impacts of climate change are increasing and inevitable.
We have about 150 years of infrastructure and investment and culture around fossil fuel-driven energy. We now have to transition into low carbon or zero carbon power, and the massive challenge is we have to do this in a very short period of time. The ICCT works on two problems, air pollution and climate change, because the transportation sector contributes mightily to both of them. There are government agencies in the top vehicle markets in the world that regulate motor vehicle emission standards and fuel standards for 85% of all the vehicles sold into the world. And so the principal objective of the ICCT is to bring them together.
Talking about the propulsion.
Then we try to level the playing field by giving those agencies the information and support they need in order to be head-to-head with the manufacturers that they're talking to. We will do real primary research and develop the technical analysis that agencies need in order to support their regulations. We did stumble upon Volkswagen cheating on their motor vehicle emission standards. Volkswagen had deliberately manipulated vehicle emissions with software. The impact of Dieselgate really transformed the auto industry. The ripple effects are still happening, even to this day. When you look at the targets that we need for 2030, which is, let's say, 35% electric vehicle penetration globally, we can see a pathway to getting pretty close to that number, and that's exciting.
We're proud to recognize Drew Kojak's work and to accept the Skoll Award from Washington, D.C. Drew, welcome to the community and congratulations.
Thanks, Pat, and thank you so much to the Skoll Foundation for recognizing this work. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the founders of the ICCT, Hal Harvey, Michael Walsh, Charlotte Pera, Margot O'Gay, and to my brilliant leadership team. I'm really accepting this award on all of your behalves. I'd like to tell a couple stories about the ICCT and how we do our work. The first story takes place in 2007, 2008 in India. At the time, I was invited to speak at an international conference in Chennai to help the Indian government sort out how to establish first ever fuel economy standards for passenger vehicles. After the conference, a government official, the fellow who had organized the conference, came to me and said, "It's my responsibility to draft these regulations, and I have never done so before. Can you help?" Whenever we get a request like this from government, we take them very seriously and we respond as quickly as we can. In this particular instance, the government was without the data necessary to establish the standards. So we collected the data, we developed a database, we then set about to find the right approach and borrowed from the Japanese front-runner approach to use a methodology to set the standards. And within a couple months, I had presented those results to both that government official and his colleagues. The end result took a couple years to finally pass and adopt fuel economy standards for India, but we like to think that we helped accelerate the process and our inputs were valuable in improving it in the end. The second story is a little better known. It takes place, at least it starts to take place in 2009, although the ICCT got involved in 2013. This has to do with the Volkswagen defeat device scandal. ICCT researchers collaborated with experts from the California Air Resources Board to collect what we call real-world data. That's data from vehicle emissions under normal driving conditions. And what we found was that the emissions of Volkswagen diesel Jettas and Passats were sky high under normal conditions. After about a year of a government investigation, it resulted in millions and actually billions of dollars of penalties for Volkswagen. But we're also pleased to note that Volkswagen has really turned itself around and is now one of the leading manufacturers, traditional manufacturers, in transitioning to electric vehicles. In the end, and in closing, I'd just like to thank really the civil servants around the world. It's those government bureaucrats that are saddled with the responsibility of solving some of the world's most pressing problems, from climate change to the coronavirus. And it's our pleasure and honor to work with them every day. Thanks so much. And thanks again to the Skoll Foundation. You're allowing us to expand our work in ways that we would never have been able to do otherwise.
Thank you, Drew, and the ICC team for helping to bring global transportation into the 21st century. In 2019, the news reports in many parts of the world focused on the hundreds of thousands of people migrating from Central America into the United States. But wasn't always reported were the reasons for this mass migration. And that is a more complex story than the news reported or that many understood. It's a story about a lost generation, fleeing unimaginable violence, gang-related, gender-based, and community violence, some of the highest crime rates and homicides. One small but mighty group of individuals decided to give this lost generation reasons to stay in their communities and to build better lives for themselves and families there. Glasswing International began to reimagine public education and health systems in these countries and others, to create community-based mental health programs and after-school life skill development programs, all to holistically address the needs of youth traumatized by the violence and lack of hope.
Many immigrants say they're fleeing gang violence in their home countries.
Central America is the region with some of the highest rates of homicide in the world. We're literally losing our population to death, to exposure to trauma, and to migration. The problem that youth face in Latin America is a combination of chronic and acute exposure to violence and trauma, which is compounded with a lack of role models and the social networks and the social support systems that kids really need to thrive. In order to address that issue, we really wanted to focus on social cohesion and on the community, because that human connection is what essentially keeps us safe. Glasswing's model takes an existing public school and converts that public school into a center of community. The community schools are a safe haven that provides all kinds of learning, recreational opportunities, a place where teachers, volunteers from the community, volunteers from corporations, could become active agents in transforming the entire community from the school. They're trained on developing social and emotional skills and really fuel that social cohesion. They also enhance their resilience, which is really important for violence prevention.
Sino que había algo más adentro, que otra persona lo vio antes de que yo lo viera, que otras personas creyeron en mí antes de yo creer en mí.
Making sure that one kid believes in themselves and you hold up a mirror to them and remind them of their potential. That's how we can change the world together.
To tell us more about their work, Selena De Sola from Glasswing.
Thank you, and thank you so much to Skoll for believing in our work. I want to thank my co-founders, Ken and Diego, our board, our partners, and our amazing staff and volunteers. At Glasswing, we spend time with kids. We create opportunities for them to develop relationships and interactions that not only build their skills, but also remind them that they matter and that we care about them. We believe in kids so they learn to believe in themselves, because that's what you need to reweave social fabric that has been torn to shreds. A few years ago, we were starting a new program in Guatemala, in a community that most people fear entering. Our school coordinator, Eluvia, who was born and raised there, decided to recruit volunteers from an unusual place. She went to the school locally seen as the school for the bad kids who had been kicked out of other schools, and she recruited 12 young men and women who became volunteers for weekly programs at the local primary school. It worked out so well. They connected immediately with the kids and really loved running the programs. In fact, we hired one of them, Walter, who still works for us full time. About 2 years into that, Walter told us that he was getting worried because his sister had gotten mixed up with the gangs. He tried to convince her and help her get out, but it's not that easy. And 2 months later, she was shot and killed by a gang member right in front of her 2 toddlers. When Walter found out, he ran home immediately to get his gun and avenge his sister. He told us a story. He said, I was looking down at this gun and picturing exactly what I was going to do. And then I couldn't stop thinking about the kids in my glee club, in my science club, and how they would react and what they would think when they saw in the paper that the person they admired most, their role model, had actually taken someone's life. I couldn't do it. And he put the gun down. This is what we can do together. It's about deep transformation. It's about healing. It's about the power of community and the potential of every single child. And now with support from Skoll and government partners, we can do more of this. We can reach more kids, more communities. Ministries of education, municipalities, they've seen the evidence and the evaluations, and they know these programs work. And they know they're the ones who can take this to scale to change their countries. Because we're not trying to just hold back the tide of violence. We're trying to shift the tide completely. We're so grateful for the opportunity to be doing this alongside Skoll and all our partners. And on behalf of the entire Glasswing community and everybody we work with, we thank you so much.
Thank you, Selena and Ken, for your important work to stop the cycles of violence, and welcome to the Skoll community. Having met these outstanding social entrepreneurs and learned more about the solutions they offer to some of the world's most pressing problems, I'm feeling more hopeful that we will call on our collective resolve, collective action, to leverage the collective strength of this community of social entrepreneurs. And each year at the Skoll World Forum, we also enjoy performances from some of the most inspiring and provocative musical artists from all across the globe. In times as dire as these, music can be a balm, a cure for the weary soul. In times like these, we need to remember to dance, to sing, to raise our voices up after the clamor of daily life. To close this celebration of the 2020 Skoll awardees, a very special treat. One of Latin America's best known and beloved performers, and truly one of the most exciting artists anywhere. Francisca Valenzuela, founder of Ruidosa, that's Spanish for noisy, an international, interdisciplinary, inclusive, and feminist platform, community, and festival. She's been at the forefront of women's equality movements in Latin America and is, as you are about to witness, someone using her words and her voice to inspire and provoke change.
Hey everybody, I'm Francisca Valenzuela. It's good to say hello via this camera. Originally, we're all going to be together at this event, this important Skoll event, celebrating you and honoring you, all these Skoll winners. Unfortunately, due to what's happening in the world today, that's not possible. But I did want to send not only some music, but some words for you as well. I am super, super honored to even speak to you, to be able to learn about all your guys' projects, which are incredible. I actually wrote down a few words just in, gratitude and celebration. So here they go. Our world is beautiful, strong, and in constant transformation. It moves fast, or sometimes not fast enough, and that leaves many behind. It is a world that is broken, that is lacking, and that is full of holes. But the humanity, creativity, and empathy of people such as yourselves builds the bridges and are the thread that slowly, stitch by stitch, cover these gaps and bring us together and make this world a better place. You have all identified a problem. And with patience and passion, through innovation and truth, each of you have created something invaluable that has an impact on people's lives around the world. Through your work, you empower people. You care for the individual, the collective, and the environment. You seek justice, you recognize and pursue the value of information, truth, inclusivity, accessibility, education, equality, health. This is revolutionary. It is subversive. It is heroic. You make us notice things that maybe we hadn't noticed, or maybe you help us see things that are sometimes too scary to acknowledge. Things we ignore or don't know how to deal with. Things that are too big and too daunting. What difference can I actually make? I think each of you answer this question, and the answer is a lot. Your work allows us to see a world of possibilities and multiple perspectives. They are windows into a new world and a new way. And those of us that have the privilege of health, of safety, of freedom, of time, those of us who can recognize the many privileges that we have every day, we have a responsibility to participate, to help, to contribute, to be aware of this privilege and use it as a motor for justice and for change. We cannot sit still and revel in our comfort, closing our eyes to lives and realities that need us. Discovering voices and initiatives like yours fill us with possibility and with power, with excitement. I feel activated and inspired, motivated to create and connect. You are true heroes. Thank you for putting yourself out there, for dreaming big and fighting hard, and showing us all how to lead with grace. I am honored to congratulate you, long distance this time around, and send you love in these tumultuous times where we, nonetheless, have an opportunity to transform these challenges and pain into something better. We can all be better. Each of you make us want to be better. Much love, muchos besitos. Ciao. So this following song is called Héroe, which means hero. And it's a song about being all of us, each and every one of us, our own hero. Here it goes. No hay héroe que me arregle, no hay vida que me contenga. Si salto, ¿cómo caeré? Con ojos cerrados o abiertos para ver. Esto pasa en mi cabeza cuando estamos en la mesa y por fuera tan compuesta. Arranca antes que aparezca. Si me toma no me suelta. Aquí voy a aquí voy, coger vuelo. Veo la señal en el cielo. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe, coger vuelo. Voy directo pa'l fuego. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe. No hay día que no me enfrente al villano que vive adentro. Y si yo salto, ¿cómo caeré en la trampa que tenso? Cada día en mis pies, esto pasa en mi cabeza cuando estamos en la mesa y por fuera tan compuesta. Arranca antes que aparezca, si me toma no me suelta. Aquí voy, coger vuelo. Veo la señal en el cielo. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe, coger vuelo. Voy directo pa'l fuego. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe. Directo pa'l fuego. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi coger vuelo. Veo la señal en el cielo. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe, coger vuelo. Voy directo pa'l fuego. Ha llegado el momento y yo seré mi héroe. This following song is called La Fortaleza, which means the fortitude or the strength. And it is about finding strength in vulnerable places, in yourself, in the fragile part of ourselves, in parts that sometimes we ignore as being strong. So here it goes. I hope you enjoy it. Todo lo que ha pasado me ha llevado hasta hoy. Miro adelante por el horizonte, la culpa la entierro y me voy. Empaco maleta, respiro profundo y no miro hacia atrás. Sol que se pone, sol que sale, me acompañará. Y creí lo que dijeron, los quería escuchar. Un grito vivía esperando salida, rogaba por su libertad. Toda una vida en la fantasía sin poderme a mí ni mirar. Y ahora veo cómo puedo volver a empezar. Voy arrasando con lo que venga. Con mi pluma y mi poema cruzaré la cordillera. Y si estoy en medio de la tormenta, sé la calma que sostenga el centro de la tierra. Y ser la fortaleza, ser la fuerza. Y no seguiré viviendo el pasado si no está. Me paro derecha en este momento y la fuerza de adentro saldrá. Empaco maleta, respiro profundo y no miro más hacia atrás. Sol que se pone, sol que sale, me acompañará. Y voy arrasando con lo que venga. Con mi pluma y mi poema cruzaré la cordillera. Y si estoy en medio de la tormenta, sé la calma que sostenga el centro de la tierra. Y ser la fortaleza, ser la fuerza. Y ser la fortaleza, ser la fuerza. Voy arrasando con lo que venga. Llegaré hasta donde pueda y que nada me detenga. Y si estoy
En medio de la tormenta, sé la calma que sostenga el centro de la tierra y voy arrasando con lo que venga. Con mi pluma y mi poema cruzaré la cordillera y si estoy en medio de la tormenta, firme como la madera y suave como seda y voy arrasando con lo que venga. Con mi pluma y mi poema cruzaré la cordillera y si estoy en medio de la tormenta, sé la calma que sostenga el centro de la tierra y sé la fortaleza, ser la fuerza y ser la fortaleza, ser la fuerza. Yo seré la fuerza, ser la fortaleza. Yo seré la fuerza, ser la fortaleza. Yo seré la fuerza.
Thank you, Francisca. That was wonderful. And our thanks to everyone who joined us for this first Skoll Virtual Awards program. Much gratitude to the entire Skoll community for all the work that you do every day in every part of the world to confront challenges with new innovations, ideas, and services and programs that address our most pressing problems and our most urgent threats. On behalf of the Skoll team, our board of directors, and especially our entrepreneurial and visionary founder, Jeff Skoll, I extend our gratitude to all of you for the work you do in every part of the world. We hope you'll stay connected with us and as a community and share this program with others. It will be available directly at skoll.org, that's SKOLL.org, as well as on all our social channels. We encourage you to repost the video on your social platforms with the hashtag SkollGoesVirtual. Remember that even in a global crisis like the current pandemic, as Kofi Annan's words reminded us, we can master this together through our collective strength. I'm Pat Mitchell, sheltering in place in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for joining us today. Keep up the great spirit and important work, and let's stay connected and united.